Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone, depending on what part of the world you're in. I'm David Horton. The session we're about to present is Storeroom Best Practices and Unique Uses. Brad Johnson and Kelly Collins will be presenting. Myself and Reed Hayes, who I'm joined by as moderators, will monitor the chat and the questions, and we'll answer as we can. And we'll probably have some time at the end of this session to answer those questions as well. So let's turn the time over to you, Brad, and go ahead and kick the session off.
All right. So welcome everyone and to our presentation on best practices for Storeroom and some unique cases that we're going to talk about. We are excited to be part of the user conference this year and glad to have everybody with us. I'll be presenting today with a good friend, Kelly Collins, who is one of our technical trainers and trains on Storeroom. So Kelly, give us a wave. And we will run through our safe harbor statement. If you haven't seen this already many times, you're going to see it every presentation throughout the next 2 days. So just be aware that anything that we discuss or talk about or any future enhancements that we've got that we will be showing and discussing, don't make any financial decisions or anything based upon those. So, okay, so today we're going to talk about why should you be using Storeroom, how it's evolved. Kelly's going to talk to us about some tips and tricks and things that will help make Storeroom a little easier to use and more meaningful. I'm going to do a brief demonstration about using a tablet for Storeroom and incorporating the camera built into a phone or a tablet to use as a barcode scanner. And then we'll talk briefly about the roadmap, what are future enhancements and things that are coming up. And just real quick on this topic, a shout out to all of our clients who take advantage of ideas or in demos or just contacting client success managers or us directly on your feedback. Most of our enhancements and things come from you, and we appreciate your feedback. So we'll be looking at some of those actual feedbacks in the roadmap. Then I'm going to talk a little bit about a unique case and how Storeroom can be used outside of the box, outside of the things that we are typically used to looking at. So quick overview here. Where has Storeroom been? What has been its evolution? So some of you on the line maybe have been around long enough to remember the old desktop version. It was a great product, worked very well. One of the drawbacks with a desktop product, however, is limitation of collaborations and being able to share data in that. So a few years ago, CityWorks started migrating to a server-based application, and this is the Office version. Many of you are still using this version, and would you encourage you to move on to the current version of Storeroom, which is our HTML5 application, which works in a browser or on a mobile device. And that's part of the beauty of that application. Also working here is a picture of my tablet with Storeroom on it. The Office version is not getting enhancements. Only the application. So all of the new things that you'll see and hear about today are only in the application. So again, encourage you to move on to the application. Why Storeroom? That's the reasons why. But you also want to be able to manage your material. Storeroom is the CityWorks solution for material management, and that's where that can come from. Who benefits from it? I mean, honestly, everybody from accounting to zookeeping benefits from the use of Storeroom. Being able to collaborate, share desktops, and be able to see what others are doing or have information just show up on a dashboard is critical. Our integrations, because of the APIs available with accounting systems, ERP systems, also with a business partner of ours, Radley, who does the full-blown barcode scanning application using Zebra-type technology for their barcode scanners and so forth. And then enhancements, those things that are coming to Storeroom that are new to us. So with that, I'm going to turn a few minutes over to Kelly and jump into what some of those enhancements might be.
Thank you, Brad. Let's go ahead and start talking about a little bit of those new functionality and best practices. So some of the enhancements that were made recently to the Storeroom plugin are our digital signatures. We can add a signature to a new or an existing transaction that we have within the system. We also added and enhanced our attachments, so that way now we can go ahead and add an attachment to an existing or a new transaction to be able to show how that transaction is being enacted. Also as well, we have our reason field that has been added in for our audit, so that way we can start to capture the data needed to be able to understand why is it that we're changing our cost of our materials that exist within our system, or why are we changing our units on hand? Why wasn't the digital environment up to date or matching what is actually in the real world? So some enhancements that help us for better data collection, as well as allowing for a little bit more of that quality data that we want in there as well. So if we'll move to the next slide, Brad. Let's talk about our first enhancement, our digital signature. You're going to see me here. I'm going to click in and start to build out an issue transaction. So I selected the item, and now I'm going through and I'm filling out my data fields here within the issue, allowing me to be able to capture, and for some reason it's froze. There we go. So now as that all shifts through, you're going to see I'm going to come down here and I'm going to hit commit. As I hit commit, now new within the system, I can go ahead and select to choose the transaction signature. So I can type in my name to capture that. And then as you can see, I'm capturing this on a desktop, so I have to use my mouse to scroll in my name there, but it looks a lot better on a tablet screen as you're going through and doing it. To be able to capture in that digital signature. But that digital signature is now stored as an attachment on that transaction and allows for us to be able to pull it up later on as we do a search for that transaction. So those are our digital signatures. Brad? We can move, there we go. So our transaction attachments, very similar. So you're going to see me here. Down at the bottom, I selected our little file icon that you see, and that brought me to my file folder explorer. I chose my file, selected to add that to my transaction, and now I'm going in searching for the transaction, and I can see that attachment has been associated to that transaction. Many file types can be added there. As you can see, that's an image that I've added to, but you could do a PDF, you could do a video, whatever it is that you want to capture. Also as well, if once again, this is captured on a desktop, on a computer. So I'm actually accessing the browser file system, but if this was on a tablet or a phone, it would also allow me access to the camera roll and the actual camera on the device that I'm utilizing. So that would give me the opportunity to be able to capture that video or that picture in real time as I'm doing it right there in the field. So those are transaction attachments. So lastly here, like I said, on the enhancements, we're going to talk about our reason field for audits. This is a field that now exists within the audit transaction type. As we go through into that audit panel, you can see here, as I've got it called out and highlighted in red, it's a drop-down that's going to actually present options to your users. So this is actually configured within Designer. If you saw before, it actually showed the pathway on that slide that was talking about the enhancements of where you would do that. In Designer, it's a custom code that you set up. So you get to kind of control what those reasons are that you're going to allow for those audits to happen within your system and what data it is that you want to collect and have a standardization of it. So something really cool to really help out and have a little bit of accountability in place when you have those changes to your digital environment to match your real world environment. Something really cool. So if we can move to the next slide, Brad. Next thing we're going to talk about is some of those best practices that we mentioned earlier. And the best practice that we have to really kind of highlight right now is reporting, right? And reporting not only within CityWorks through your Crystal reports and your DocX reports, but also through your dashboards. Dashboards are very powerful tools, as we saw a little bit earlier in the plenary session, how you can utilize and get that information in real time as it's being performed. So this is just a slide of simple reporting that is an example that we have of a dashboard that can be utilized. So as we can see here, we're tracking our minimum quantity. The reason why I call it simple reporting is because this is built based off of queries and widgets that are directly already within CityWorks. We're just presenting data that we've already captured, allowing us to be able to utilize the simple widgets and queries that we've already got created. We can also delve a little bit deeper into these and actually start to perform analytics and get into a little bit more of advanced reporting. So if we'll move to the next slide, we can see an example of how that will look. So here really quickly, I'm going to build a dashboard. I'm just going to name it Storeroom, as you see in here. And then I'm going to bring in some advanced analytics from our Esri's ArcGIS, insights for ArcGIS. And we're going to start to present that information from data that we've already collected within the site and built through Esri's tools. So as I go in, you're going to see I'm going to drop in a hyperlink through an HTML widget, and then I'm going to go ahead and add in my dashboard from Insights for ArcGIS. All of my cards are going to present here for me, and then I'm just going to simply save it. And then when I come back and look at it, we can see how that advanced dashboard now starts to look. As you can see, I have a multitude of cards and views available for me to be able to start to look at. As I move over to one of my cards, I can see here, I'm tracking my velocity here, and I can get really analytical and very down deep into how that data is being presented and how it can be seen. So as you can see, some best practices that we have here is in reporting and utilizing our dashboards that we have here for our reporting. So I highly recommend that you start to dive in, play with some queries, play with some widgets, and start to bring in that data in a meaningful manner that your users can be able to start to identify with and see how better you can utilize your storeroom within CityWorks. And those are some best tips or some best practices and tips utilizing Storeroom. Thanks, Brad.
Cool, Kelly. Thank you. Hey, I just want to remind everybody, if you do have questions, there's a question section that you can enter those in. And we're trying to keep up with those. And then we'll have a Q&A period at the end. So let's talk a little bit about using a tablet. And this really is a best practice. Being able to just pick up a tablet, go out into a warehouse, go out to a vehicle that you may have stock on, and being able to use your tablet or phone as a barcode scanner and as your actual collection device for running Storeroom. It does need to run in a connected environment, so either with a data plan or Wi-Fi. But let's take a look at how this process works. So as you can see, this looks very familiar, very similar to what Kelly was showing with the dashboard. And this is a dashboard in Storeroom on my tablet, and I have my normal functions down the left-hand side, so requisitioning, receiving, issuing, and so forth. And I can do anything I can do on a desktop, but I'm going to use the barcode. See the little barcode symbol there in the middle of the screen. I'm going to tap on that, access my camera. Then I can use a QR or a barcode, scan that, and as you can see, immediately that fast it came up and is available now to receive in this case. So put in a quantity, add it to the list, and I can commit it, I can sign it. I'm going to show you this is a little easier than using a mouse. So I could put my name in, sign it on a tablet, and I'm done. So this could be done with any function. Let's look at an audit. I can perform audits. So I can take my tablet, go out into my building, go to a location, scan that location, scan it. It's going to pull that item up. And there is that item that I want to do an audit on. So verify the quantity, put in a reason code. This is random audit. And then commit it. And again, I can sign that if I need to. So any function that I do in my desktop, I can go out and do using a tablet or phone. So if I'm in a vehicle and I need to do an audit of the items on my truck, I can use my phone very easily to do that function. So let's talk a little bit about what's coming and our roadmap. 2.1 is what we've been showing. And showing some of those enhancements, the digital signature, transaction, attachments, we can clone storerooms now in 2.1 and put in the reasons for audits. Serialization is one of the biggest things that's currently in development and coming soon. This will be a huge enhancement to CityWorks and the ability, for example, water meters or electrical meters, being able to receive those and receive one product and be able to assign multiple serial numbers, warranty dates, or expiration dates to that. And the plan is that this will eventually be able to be followed right through to the work order and when something is installed to the attributes of the asset. Query editors and improved search capabilities. So right now we're using save searches. We'll continue to use that functionality, but the background will be queries. So much like we're creating those dashboards that Kelly showed and making the dashboards significant improvement in speed in those searching and querying capabilities. Chrome is also being supported now on an iOS device, as well as QR scanning. Improved navigation. So again, this is feedback from many of you, is you go to add new material, you have to go to 3 different screens: material, storeroom material, and the supplier material, and add that to those. We're going to be improving that UI to all be included in one page, being able to interact with that much easier and be a much better experience. Update for material requisitions, more updates on that coming, and permissions for requisitions. Right now, anybody can create a requisition. We'll be adding that to the permissions. So just like issuing, receiving, auditing, and transferring permissions for requisitions will be added to that. We added cloning storerooms to 2.1. In 2.2, coming soon, will be the ability to clone material. Vendor returns is a big one that clients have asked for, and agreed that is something that when something comes in damaged, broken, or needs to be returned, a way to identify that, or identify something that was broken when it came in or needs to be returned to a vendor. And then a transaction rollback. This will be a big lift, but something that we know is necessarily. You can put in all of the standard operating procedures and you're still going to have somebody fat finger something. So the ability to roll back a transaction is something that we're looking at with this capability. All right, let's talk about some of the uses that we currently have for Storeroom. We use Storeroom for water, sewer, public works, parks, and all of those typical things that we know and use. But how many of you thought about using Storeroom for some other things? Maybe an IT department and managing your IT items. How about an airport and managing things, everything from runway lights to windsocks, and those things that you might manage with an airport. How about a fire department, managing the engines themselves and the paramedic vehicles and the material that's on those, as well as PPE and other things that might be fire related. Police department, managing those kind of things that are in a police department. Even managing evidence and controlling evidence through Storeroom. These are cases that we've actually got clients who are looking into at this time. Those are great and those are good. I want to talk about one that maybe is even more unique than this current one. And that's, how can I use Storeroom to manage maybe emergency stuff or things that are a little bit different? We've got a client in Colorado, Gary Community Investments, who reached out to us a little over a year ago. And Gary Community is a nonprofit. We were introduced to them through a mutual partner. And they wanted to use CityWorks to manage the testing of COVID cases and people that came in for testing. All of the test kits, they wanted to manage the collection, their Tyvek suits, paper clips, printers, you name it, everything that they used for doing the testing and now vaccinating with COVID. We set them up with a CityWorks online account so that we can help manage that. We help them, actually they took our online training, which Kelly has helped put together. It was a 4-hour class that they took the 4-hour class. They had some demonstrations from me on how Storeroom works, how they can set up dashboards. And really with that little bit of training, they were able to get started in here. And I can't remember now, they probably got 30 to 50 sites in the Denver, Colorado Springs area that they manage testing and vaccinating and all of the materials that they use. The way they do this is they have a central location. And because CityWorks can work on a server base out in the field at the collection sites, at the end of the day, they can get on a tablet. They can review and do audits of their material, and they audit their material. As you can see, they're doing hundreds of transactions, and they will audit what they have. And then what they need to get from the main facility, they'll put in a transfer request for, and then that will be sent out to them the next day so that they have the equipment that they need to do their work. This is a unique case. What makes this an even more unique case is that Gary Community doesn't use any of the rest of CityWorks. They only use Storeroom. It's truly a standalone application. Yes, they have designer or admin now. When they have employees they need to add or manage, so they do have to go into admin to do that. But basically, they run Storeroom as a standalone application. CityWorks Storeroom is the way to manage your material, your parts. Think out of the box and how you can use it and how it can help manage those parts and those materials. And with that, I'm going to turn the last few minutes of this over to question and answer. Maybe Kelly, anything you want to add or a thought about that we want to add before we turn it over to David for Q&A?
No, just thank you everyone for joining today. I see we have 400 plus people that are joining in today, and hopefully this has been helpful and you've seen some things as we've gone through and shown a little bit about our wonderful application of Storeroom.
So Brad, we have had a few questions. Reed and I have been kind of answering some of them as we've gone along, but there's also some that I think will require input. So Christopher Roth from Mesure Canada has asked, how can you create a query in Storeroom plugin, in the Storeroom plugin, to find materials under minimum quantity? There does not appear to be a method for this like there was in the old Storeroom.
So good question, Chris. And this is part of the query, the new query that is available in 2.1 that you would require. And it includes for Storeroom material, all of the child schema for that. So you can drill down on specific storerooms and the stock on hand, the minimum quantities, all of that can be done. You do have to be on 2.1, but that schema is available. And be happy to show you or anybody that needs some help seeing that. But that is available in the advanced search in Storeroom to create that query.
Yeah, so if you're still on something before 2.1 or you haven't migrated to 2.1 yet, that's the thing that I was going to mention, is that you can still build out that query through the advanced query tool. You just have to kind of know where those tables lie and what that information is. So it's a little bit more tricky, but you can still expose the information in the plugin through the query.
Okay, another question from Brian Rafferty, Village of Schaumburg. For barcoding, is there a way to scan a barcode on the ELM, the ELM tab of a work order, to apply the material to the work order?
So there is, Brian, you can use a Bluetooth scanner, and I just happen to have one sitting right here on my desk. So something like this can be used. Basically, it becomes a keyboard shortcut. So in ELM, on the material part, when you go to the advanced search, you can scan the barcode and it will populate that and select your material for you. It'll filter it for you and pull that up. So that is available.
Okay, Brad, here's another one from Gabriella Olson at Valley Center Municipal Water District. Do you know if you can link Storeroom with an online safety data sheet? I'm guessing an MSDS database, so staff can see the safety data sheet and the materials from CityWorks.
So yes, you can save that MSDS sheet as a JPEG, as a PDF or whatever. Then in the materials, under config material, for each item there's an attachment section, you can click on attachment and you can attach basically anything, as Kelly indicated before. It could be a PDF, it can be, you can put a hyperlink in there, and that is where you would go to look for that. So you would look up that material, look in the attachment, and you can open that attachment. If it's a diagram, schematic, if it's MSDS, whatever it might be you're storing in there, you can open that and view it.
Okay, here's another good one. Ernie Phelps from Columbia County, and this will probably go to you, Kelly. Is the training available for all this new functionality?
Yeah, so there is actually, so currently right now, 2.1 has not been released on learn.trimble, but currently I am working on updating to 2.1. So within the next couple weeks / months, we're hoping by July 23rd, all of our new 15.7 and 2.1 content will be uploaded onto learn.trimble. Currently right now, the storeroom will be an e-learning, so that means it's a self-guided, self-paced learning, has a lot of cool interactive tools with it, things such as software simulations where you actually get to go in and click on the software and get to go through and actually, you know, actualize the workflows that we're talking about here. So that, look for that to be coming up here within the next couple months as we upgrade from, you know, 15.6 and 2.0 to 15.7 and 2.1 to all the new latest versions as they've been released. So currently right now, no, but to be soon out, yes. And then we also just started up our web live training again, and there should be another Storeroom Live web training out in the fall that will be on 2.1.
Cool. Hey, so a couple of people have asked this question. Will these slides be available after the conference? And I know all these sessions are recorded, but one point that was brought up, the text is really too small to read in the session. So will we have the slide deck available?
Yeah, we'll make the slide deck available to anybody that needs it. No problem.
Great. Okay, a couple more. Stephen Greenwood from Pennachuck Water, hopefully I said that right. So you may not want a signature for every part issued, but has there been thought to required signature for parts over a defined configured value? As in
that is
a preference.
Yeah, that is a great suggestion, and it is one that we have thought about in, yeah, you don't have to collect the signature, you can collect the signature, but then looking at some preferences of some clients may want to make the signature required. And as we look at that, that's a great suggestion that we'll look at as a threshold of making that available.
So somewhat related also from Stephen, is the logged in user login information written to the signed record, thus showing who wrote the record, not allowing someone to impersonate another user?
Yeah, so all of the transactions are recorded into the trans history table in the database, which records who is signed in and who performs that function. And that's something that can be pulled out either with a Crystal report, it can be looked at with CityWorks Analytics. That's all stuff that we've got some templates and reports may be available. The Crystal report may be available at My CityWorks. Obviously, with the analytics, you can pull that out with CityWorks Analytics too.
Okay, another one that just popped in from Erica King in DeKalb County. Could you run Storeroom 2.1 with CityWorks 15.6 if you haven't upgraded to 15.7 yet?
Yes, absolutely.
So the 2.1 plugin is backwards compatible to 15.6 and doesn't require upgrading the base deployment.
Yep.
Yeah,
perfect.
It was actually released under the services of 15.6.
Mm-hmm.
We got about 30 seconds left, David.
Anything else, Reed, that I'm missing here that you want to pull up? Questions?
I can't see anything I'll try to answer the questions that have been posted on here afterwards. So the
Yeah,
ones that we didn't discuss, yeah.
Anything we didn't either answer through the question answer forum for you or through this session, we will follow up on at a later date with you. So thanks, Brad. Thanks, Kelly, for presenting. And anyone attending, please feel free to reach out to any one of the four of us. We will help you with anything we can. Thanks.
Thank you, everyone.
Thanks, guys. Have a good rest of the conference.